Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Nikhil's Satyavarapu, one-stop destination for learning RPA Business Analyst and Managers. So today we are going to discuss one of the important and most interesting and mandatory topic. So that is SDD. So before going to the technical discussion, so I would like to introduce our speaker for today. So we have Harika. So Harika from Hyderabad. And let me give a quick intro about Harika. So Harika is having around 5 years of total experience and relevant to RPA is around 3+ years. And she is currently working in one of the product-based company, India, as a senior RPA developer. She's having immense knowledge on RPA tools using UiPath, and she has been an active community member and given many sessions. Even we both collaborated and have did some of the community sessions, and she created lots of content on educating the community on her via her YouTube channel. And she's been speaker in the non-community activities like so she has been speaker for the student community for organized by the Andhra Pradesh government, and she is being recognized and she got awarded from them as well. So let's welcome Harika into the session. Say hi, Harika.
Hi, Nikhil. Thank you so much for a great introduction.
Thank you, Harika. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harika. Thanks for accepting the invitation, and every time you are available whenever the community is needed. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
So I recently started discussions with the industry people. So, and I have did one session on PDD. So I have got good response, and people started asking me, can you please do a session with SDD? So I thought we can do a session on SDD. So I think we are good. So let's go into the discussion. So okay, Harika, can you please tell me, so first of all, what is SDD and what is the importance of SDD? So can you please elaborate?
Sure. So basically, SDD is like solution design document. So how we have PDD in the same way, this is one document that will help us to identify the solution that we are going to develop for the process. So it is a very important step once after we take the requirements from the client, because once after the SDD comes into picture, we'll understand if the process can be feasible or not, like how much time we're gonna take for this process to automate. So all the features or the details that we need in order to go ahead for the development. So this SDD comprise all this information. So that's why it's very important and the crucial step before that.
Got it. So coming to SDD, so who will create this SDD? And as you said, it is very important. And what is the roles he will play actually in this SDD?
So basically, SDD has to be prepared by someone who has technical knowledge in terms of that particular technology, I can say, because when the most crucial part of SDD is like solution. Okay, what is the solution that we are going to give for the manual task in order to automate the best way. So it depends. It varies from organization to organization, but it has to be developed by a person who is experienced with developing the automation. So as we are talking about RPA, I will be very precise and confined to automation part. So a solution architect is the person who is responsible in preparing the SDD, because he is the one who knows how to design and what are the components that we have to use, and how the workflow will be managed, and how we can save the time through automation. So all these things are very clearly involved in preparation of the solution. So solution architect is the person, but in some cases, developer will also develop the solutions. It depends on the organization and the process that you're going to automate, and the difficulty level of the process. All these things play a major role. So based on that, either a solution architect or the developer is involved in preparing this SDD.
Got it. Thanks for that. So there is a common myth I'm hearing from the freshers or the people from the community. So they think like STD and PDD are the same. So what is the, I mean, is there the same, or is there any difference between these two documents?
No, it's not the same because PDD is basically it has the information, like it defines more about the process, like what the process is, and whenever we sit for the discussion with the SME, so they explain us how the process will be carried out. Like I can say, in case of any of the processes, there would be a subject matter expert. Okay, they will be well known with the process that you're going to automate, right? So they will explain the process and each thing what they're going to do step by step. And you know, the BA is the person, business analyst. They will capture all the steps and they will document everything in a document that's called as PDD. Okay, that's just you know, replicating whatever the steps that go through the process when you are doing it manually. So that's a PDD. But SDD is completely different. SDD is something which we will prepare based on the automation part, like the technicality of the processes involved when it comes to SDD. Like I can give an example. Let's say if there is an activity like a manual user has to get the information from a website, okay, and that part will be written as to extract the data from the website. But in SDD, that will be written in a technical term. Let's say I'm going to use data scraping activity here, right? So that's how PDD differs from SDD. So SDD basically talks about the technical terms and what we are going to use, what activities we are going to use, and these basically. So that's these both are not the same; they're completely different.
Got it. Thanks for that. So when we talk about the PDD and all, so is there any role PDD plays in the form of STD? Like PDD is having any role in STD?
Yeah, definitely, because PDD has all the information about the process, right? So each and every detail that a person do in the process manually, each and every detail will be captured and it is placed in PDD. So when we are preparing the SDD, definitely we have to get the reference from PDD, like what are the steps that they are doing manually. So based on that only we can develop the solution. So definitely PDD is very important. And also let's say if there is any information that is missed in PDD, so there are chances the solution what we are developing that has to be reworked, right? Let's say there is a crucial information that we are missing out, then you know the solution may be have to be changed later in future because of something which we've missed out. So that's why PDD is very crucial in order to you know develop the best solution. So yeah, it will be like that. We have to take reference from PDD for a perfect solution.
Got it. So when we are creating this STD, do we have any standards, or do we want to follow the standards, and why?
Yeah, definitely. You know, there are standards for the documentation, but it is not same with all the organizations. But yeah, there are few templates that are released by UiPath for developing the best SDDs. I will also walk you through the templates and explain you more detailedly, like what has to go through an SDD and what things you have to place. But definitely, the solution diagram being the major part, and also we have to mention like the risk assumptions and everything. But yeah, on high level it is something like there are standards that we have to follow, which we will see at the end. I will run you through the template and I can explain.
Sure, thanks for that. And see, when we are creating this STD, so most of us know, like in this STD only, the to be process maps will come. So why to be process maps coming in STD, and what it is actually, what is to be process, and why we are creating and keeping in the STD?
Okay, so as I have already spoken about the PDD and SDD, see, let's say before I explain the to-be process maps, I will also talk a bit about as-is process. So as-is process is something like, you have to just take the steps what they're doing manually and just put it in a pictorial form, like a flow diagram. Okay, that is called as-is process. Okay, that will play a major role in PDD. But in case of SDD, we are going to tell the client, or that's just mentioned in the document, like we are going to do this in this way, like we are going to give you the solution in this way, like to be done in this way. So that's how the to be process is taken as, like as I've given you the data scraping example. When we are extracting the data, that comes under as is map, as is flow diagram, and when we are using the data scraping, that part comes under the to be process. So this is also a flow diagram which replicates how the process is done technically, like how we will be doing this each and every step, and what are the activities that we are going to use, and each and everything that we are going to replicate in a flow diagram, but on high level. So that comes under to be process. But if you're going in detail, that comes under the solution diagram. So this is something on high level that we showcase. Yeah.
Okay. So, as you said earlier, we will follow some of the standards for STD, and you said like it differs from the company to company and the process to process. Agreed. So, do we have any complete standard like, oh yeah, this should be mandatory in every STD document? Like these are the mandatory steps or mandatory items should be available in STD document. So if anything else like that, I can, if yes, can you please tell me that?
Yeah, sure. So as I've already mentioned earlier, the solution diagram is one of the major things that you have to, provide in the part of SDD. So before I actually answer your question, I would like to just give you one idea. Let's say when after the PDD is done, we will be going to the client and we will be taking the sign, right? But in case of SDD, it will be done in many ways. But the best practice to follow with SDD is like, when we are done with PDD, the next step is we are checking the feasibility, if the process can be automated or not. Because that's very important, because we cannot agree and then go back and say them that this cannot be automated. So feasibility is one main step after PDD before we start with SDD. So once after the feasibility is done, we have to prepare the solution. So when we are preparing the solution, we have to make sure one thing very clear, that basically we are moving to automation, either to reduce the time. Basically, whatever the tasks that are done by a human being, that has to be done in less time by a robot, right? That's the main agenda. So we have to make sure whatever the solution that we are preparing, that has to give you the output in a minimal time. But in most cases, it is possible, but there are some exceptional cases where the time taken by robot, because if it's switching from different, if there are multiple systems, then that's not possible. But one more advantage that we have switching to automation is, a human cannot work 24/7, but a robot can do. And also the number of robots that we can use, like we can scale the process, right? Let's say if 8 employees are working throughout the day for 6 to 7 hours, we can put 12 robots throughout the day, like 24/7. They don't need any breaks, right? So that's how we can scale up the process. So, but the main agenda to automate the process is to cut down the time. But that if that cannot be done, we can scale up the process, which will definitely bring the ROI to the client. And also here, as you asked, the standards. So we have to make sure whatever the solution that we're preparing has to go through, and it has to be the best solution. There can be many ways that you can build a solution, but you have to make sure that it should cut down all the fillers. If there are any reusable activities out there, you have to make sure that you make it as a component and reuse somewhere, instead of keeping the same piece of code everywhere throughout the solution. So when you are designing the solution, you have to keep all these things in mind, and you can do that. So that brings the best solution out.
Yeah, that's really wonderful example and scenario. So thank you so much. And see, when we are creating this STD and all, So do you think this STD also should be signed off, and why it should be signed off, and who will take care this sign off process?
Okay, this is again a question like, the answer can be varied. Like, we cannot say that, this has to go this way only. It is not something like that, because it depends on organizations. If you, there are cases like where, the people will be, taking SDD to the end. After PDD, they'll start development. But I can say the best way is, whenever you are taking the SDD into consideration, you cannot fill out all the information in SDD. But solution is the one thing that you can do before the development. So we can design the solution, and we can fill out all the information which is available before development, and you can get the sign off. And later, like, I mean, sign off can be given by the client, and if there is any support team that's gonna handle the process in future, they can go through the solution. They can have some idea about what the process is, and how the solution is designed. And if they have any obligations, they can also put their questions, or that can be clarified, and then sign off can be given. So it can be any of the people. Like, if they don't have supporting, the client can SME can give it. So it's a varied answer. It's not standard like only this person will be giving the sign off or something like that. It's completely varies. And you've also asked like how this process will be. Like, basically at the end of development also, there are some things that we have to fill in the SDD. And I can say it's the ongoing process. Like, it's not just you will be doing SDD in the beginning of the development and you leave it. It's not like that. You will do a part of SDD in the beginning, and then it will be carried forward till the end. And once after you moved into production also, you have to fill in some information into SDD, because it will have all the information about production environment, production machines, queues, and all the information. So these things you cannot know before the development, right? You will be knowing only after, once after the code is moved into production. So it's an ongoing process, but it starts after PDD. So it works like that.
Got it. Thanks for that. And adding to that, so I think this document also will be, the sign off process will be taken care by BA. So am I right for that? Like,
Sorry,
so
your question.
yeah, so the STD document is created by technical person or architect or a lead or a developer, but the sign off process or the sign off from the business will be taken care by BA, right?
Sign off will be given by, if there is any support
Yes,
team
yes.
from the, it will be given by them, and the responsibility will be on the person who has developed it. Like, if it's a developer or if it's a solution architect, it will be on the person who developed.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for that. And see, when we create this STD and all, so do we have any standard tools, or what kind of tools we need to use while creating this? So can you please explain us on that?
Okay, so SDD is basically a Word document. So you will have to fill in all the information in that. But for designing the solution diagram, we have multiple tools. Like, you have Microsoft Visio, so you can use that as well. But it's a licensed one. And if you wanted to use it on open source, we have draw.io. So you can use any of these tools. So basically, you can just develop the solution there, diagram there, and you can import it as an image or a HTML any link, and you can just place it into your document. So you can use any of these tools.
Okay. For free version, you will suggest draw.io, right?
Correct, draw.io.
Even I'm using that. So thanks for that. And while creating the STD or anything until the end of the STD, definitely you people will face many challenges. So can you please explain me what kind of challenges you faced and how you gone through, and suggestions on that?
Okay, so challenges as in, like, okay, there can be as I've mentioned you, the solution, right? That's the major part. So previously we will not have that's the area where we will sit in and think how logically we will build in this, right? there are many ways that you can build a solution for a process, right? So you can go from point A to B, like you can take 10 steps to go from point A to B, but it just comes with experience, that how you can cut down those points in middle to reach the solution in a best way. So that's very important. So that's the challenge that we will face, like how best you can build out or put out the solution to to decrease the time that it takes to finish the transaction or the queue item. So that's how and also the challenges are like let's say if something is missed out in PDD, then that will also cause changes in the solution. That will also have to be tweaked, like you have to tweak a little bit about your solution. But apart from that, the major challenge is if there are any CRs that comes in future. So there are chances like you have to either change your whole solution, but it again depends on the timeline that you have for the process. So if in that case, it will be a little bit tricky. But apart from that, I don't see much challenges while developing the solutions.
Really good. Really. Thanks for that. And one question about the estimation. For example, for creating PDD or for creating a study, do we have any standard estimation for creating? For example, who is a solution architect is creating a process and he is creating the SDD document. So do we have any standard like this many days for a general process? Do you have anything that in place or?
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you can continue.
So basically, as I said, SDD is the ongoing process. So for initial preparation of the solution, you can take maybe a week time based on the complexity of the process. Also, I'm talking. So a week time, even though if the process is too much complex, a week time would be sufficient, because the solution is the only thing that will take a lot of time in the beginning. But later, it's something at the end you can fill out. Once after the project goes into production, you can fill out the other details. That wouldn't be taking so much of time. It's just you have to update the information which is already there. And I also want to talk about one point which you just picked up now regarding the timelines. So if you ask me, like designing the solution will also help you to give estimates. Like if there is something in the process. See, when you are designing the solution, you have to go through every nook and corner of the process, right? So when you're doing it, we will think how we will automate this process, what activity I'll be using, and how it will be with different scenarios. Let's say if we are going through positive scenario, it will be well and good. But if you're thinking about exception handling, let's say in case of exceptions, what will it be like? So all these things you will be think at the point of developing the solution, right? So at that time, you will get some idea about if it is going to take long time or not. So that will definitely help you. If you have any delays or coming up, you can actually assume, or you can predict what's going to happen, or what will be the tricky part of the solution and all these things. So based on that, you can also give a heads up, like if this part may be going to take some time. So if you wanted to, you can start working on it, right? So that's how you can deliver the solution on time. So that's how it will help you a bit. Instead of getting the surprises in the last minute, that will help you along.
And for BAs, so this STD document is not creating by BAs, right? We know that.
No.
So we know that. So what kind of knowledge the BA should at least have about the solution document, because this is also very important document, and might be in some cases like he will be carrying this document to the SME, to the delivery managers, and until the journey completed, the STD and the PDD will be repository documents with the BAs basically. So what kind of knowledge he should at least have, and what kind of suggestions you can give, like for a BA into the STD?
It's a very good question, Nikhil, actually, because I've observed a lot of BAs these days are having good knowledge on, in terms of technicality also. So when I see like, let's say if I'm designing a solution or something, or if you're talking about orchestrator queues or something, there literally I'm getting to hear something from them back, right? So that's how I understand they're having little knowledge as far as I'm with whom I've worked till now. So they're having little knowledge on solutions as well, like at least the technical terminology at least. So predominantly talking about the knowledge they should have on SDD is like they can just see like what are they can cross check, like if the SME or the client support developers are asking some questions, if they have good knowledge on the technical terminology or the things that we have filled up in the SDD, that would definitely be helpful.
So thanks for that. So you are telling like BA should at least know what is there in the document and why we are keeping all these items in this document, and should have minimal knowledge like what is what. That's it, right? So
Correct. Like at least the technical terminology, if they get to understand, that wouldn't be a surprise to them if someone asks a question or something.
yeah, exactly. So adding to that point, so from my side, even whenever I went to some customer and all, my solution architect will be preparing some mesmerizing ideas, because right now we have in UiPath document understanding, we have many things, hyper automation, intelligent automations and all. Solution architect knows that, and he already kept in the SDD document. When the BA is carrying to the sign off process and all, the reply back comes from the business is like they said like OCR is fine, but they used some document understandings and all. So why it is happened? Can we go through and all? So this is, even I had my personal experience as well. So because at that time we don't have the much exploration of the intelligent process or whatever, but my senior team knows that. So then I started looking into, okay fine, I'm also need to go with the flow, like even the solution to what he's preparing. And then this is when I'm in the second year or something like that. So then whenever the solution architect is creating, I will sit with them and I will at least try to understand what he is preparing, and I will ask them, brother, what is this and why you are preparing like this, can we do like this, or why you are creating this kind of thing. So my suggestion to adding to your points also, sit with your sit with your solution team or a senior architect or a technical lead or a senior developer, understand what they are preparing and ask before asking SME only, you only ask them, what is this, why we are keeping, and our process is this and why you are keeping this. So try to gain some knowledge over that. 50% of knowledge of this SDD document will give you 100% results from your side. Then nobody stops you in some point. So this is from my point. So I think
it's definitely to learn something which we don't know.
Yeah. So that's really, really wonderful. I think we have covered everything. So I don't have any questions on the STD part. So if you can go forward with, as you said, you will showcase of some template. So if you can go through it, then definitely it will be really helpful.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, yes.
I don't have the permission.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
to enter.
Yeah, sorry. Can you please try?
Yeah. So first of all, this is the template that was provided by UiPath for all the people. They can use this template based. It's just that it has a rough template, like just like a box. You can just put in all the information from your process into this, and that will help you with this. So I will give you this template also, or else you can find it in the solution architecture certification also. But I will provide you this template as well. So if you see in this contents, we have the purpose, automated process details, and runtime diagram, and other details. So apart from this, I will also mention you what are the other details that you can add upon to this as well. So let's go one by one. So if you just see the purpose, it's very clear, like what is it just gives you the outline about what is the purpose of using this SDD document, right? So it just clearly shows you the focus of the solution architect will be on robustness, scalability, efficiency, replicability, reusability of the component. So as I've already mentioned you, these are very important because, so let's say one example, when there's an UI automation, and if you have developed some automation, and if you wanted to get the information from that particular process, so in that case, if you develop in such a way that there are two ways that you can develop. You can do front end and back end automation, both the ways. So if you are developing it in a way that based on the UI changes, if the automation is not working, that is not robust, right? So you can try to check multiple ways how you can build a solution. So that's what I am pointing on. So you can try with both the ways and try to check how the solution will be stable for all the changes. So that's how you can do the robust solution for it. And scalability, let's say if you have developed the process for one bot, and in future if there is a lot of backlog, and if the client wanted to use the bot for multiple use the process for multiple bots, so your process should be in such a way that it doesn't get affected even if you use it for the multiple bot architecture. So it should be like that, and it should be efficient. And as I've already mentioned, the components which if you're using same code in multiple places, try to check if you can reuse that particular component, if you can use it in a multiple place. So in that case you don't have to write the same lines of code again and again. And also in future, if something changes, you can just do a small change at one place which will reflect at all other places. So that's how the reusability of the component will play a major role. So because once after you move the code into production, it's not advisable to make the changes frequently. So that's how reusability is also used. So as you asked, like what are the standards that you have to keep in solution? So you have to consider all these things when you're designing a perfect solution. And also here, if you can see, this information is targeted for the developers at the time of development, and later to the support developers in the future. Like let's say if there are any change requests after the deployment of the process to the client, then for the support developers. And then you have to mention all these details, like what is your project name, what is the robot type, if it's attended or unattended, and orchestrator, if you're using orchestrator or you're just using queues or Excel or something like that, you can just mention. And then if the process is scalable or not, and what version of UiPath you are using. So all these details you can mention. So as I've told you, these are something which you can provide like before development also. Right? These are not something which we have to wait until the whole development is done. This can be provided before the development. And here comes the main thing, the architectural structure of the master project. So this is where your solution diagram goes into, right? You have to give all the details, like how you're starting and what are the activities that you're using, how many steps that you're going to take. At least on a rough level, you have to provide in the beginning. So that's how the architectural structure goes and fits in this particular part. And there comes the details, like, so as I've mentioned you, that we have to provide production environment details and what are the prerequisites to run. Let's say if you wanted to get an Excel or mail from the customer before we actually start the process. So those has to be mentioned under prerequisites. Until that particular requirement is provided, you cannot run the process. So that comes under here, and you have to mention everything clearly. And then you have to provide the input data, like what type of data you are providing it as input and all this information. What will be the output for that? And how to start the automated process, like are you going to trigger it from the queues, or like it's a scheduled job, or what it will be basically like, how to start, or if it's an attended automation. So all this information have to be provided here. And then the reporting part, because this is very important when it comes to client, because that's where the whole interest of the client lies in, actually. Because once after we develop, the whole reporting shows how the process is actually running. So you have to mention everything, like what type of reporting, like is the queue or Kibana, what you're using. So everything you have to mention clearly over here. And if you're using orchestrator, you have to mention here. And the password policies. So what actually password policies is, like we are using multiple systems, whatever we, after we mentioning what are the systems that we are providing, later, let's say in some cases, the password has to be changed after 90 days because that will get expired. So in such case, you can mention what is the time that is there for changing the password and all the information. That policy you can mention over here. And stored credentials. So basically, for process to process, we store credentials in different ways. Like you can use credential manager, you can use assets. So there are many ways that you can store credentials. So where exactly you're storing the credentials, that has to be mentioned here. So list of queues that you are using in the process. So this is basically for the production. In production, what are the list of the queues that you are using and all the information, the queue name and everything you have to give it over here. And as I've mentioned, how to start the automation process, right? Let's say if it's a schedule, like if it's run based on daily basis or monthly basis, if it's a scheduled job, you have to mention what are the schedule details, like daily 6 a.m. at CET. So these information you have to mention under schedule details. And then if it supports multiple resolution or not, if it's not supporting multiple resolution, then what is the recommended resolution? Because if you deploy, if the process is running in another mission, which resolution is not set as expected, then the in case of UI, they may go wrong, or they may come some issue, like if you're reading it from a picture or something. So then this will comes under risk, right? So you have to make sure the process will work in certain resolution. So that has to be provided here. So after this, we are mentioning about the runtime details. These are the runtime details that we have spoke about till now. And then comes the project name. Like these are the project details basically. So we are talking more precisely about what is the environment we are using. Let's say like name, location, like it's a development environment or the production environment, and what are the configuration details that we are using, what's the configuration of the system that we are using for the that particular environment. So all these details we have to provide here. Environment prerequisites. So let's say if you're deploying the process in a certain OS or something, so what will be the prerequisite for the process to run? So we should have license, studio license, and Microsoft Excel. So if these are the prerequisites, we have to mention over here. And so basically, if you see this document, it will be very minimal from the person who is developing. But let's say in future, a support guy comes and he wants to run the process. If something goes wrong, he can come and check over here. It will be like a Bible for him. Everything will be mentioned. Let's say prerequisites are here, and you can say what will be the input for the process and what will be the output for the process. So everything is very clear, and the solution will also be very clear. So that's how it works as a guide for him. So that's how it's very important to mention each and every detail that we are going to do in the process. So maybe this will not be you may not be able to fill in all the information at the moment before the development, but if you get the information, then that's fine. But if it's not okay, then we can just give the architectural structure of the process, and then this can be filled later throughout the process. And then we have the repository. So whatever the coding that you're doing, we have to store the code in as a backup every day, right? So that's the best practice. So we have to store it in a certain repository. Either it can be GitHub or it can be Bitbucket. So all those information you have to provide here. And what are the configuration methods, like either it can be assets or Excel or something like that. So we've already spoke about the reusable components in the beginning, right? So we can mention what are the reusable components. Let's say if there are multiple processes in the same project, then in that case, one component which was developed in one process can be used across the other processes. So that's how we can list all the reusable components here. And if there are any new reusable components, let's say if a support person develops a new reusable component in the future, then those can also be placed over here. So this is all about the project details that we are going to do. And here comes, I think till here, whatever is available, we can provide it uphand before the development happens. But here, whatever I'm going to talk now, like the project workflow and packages, this is it. So these two details, like the project workflows and the packages, these two have to be filled only after the development is done, because we will not get this information before the development, because these are the project workflows. Let's say if there are 10 workflows inside the process that we are going to automate. In that case, you cannot know what will be the input, what will be the output, what will be this workflow, everything, all the details, variables, you cannot really know. So in that case, the project workflows you cannot fill uphand. So this is basically, if you see here, for the workflow files defined below, please specify the input and output parameters. So if you just see, you have to give the workflow name and description. So let's say main, here they've given an example. It will invoke all the other workflows. In the same way, you can give the different workflows and you can provide two more columns like input parameter, output parameter, and the description, what this workflow actually does. So that's how this, all the workflows, whatever the workflows are there, you can list down all the workflows one below the other under this project workflow section. And there comes the packages. Let's say, if you're using certain packages in the process, so what are the packages that you are using? You can just mention over here. Let's say if any package is missing in the future, then you can just check here and then you can just add on that package back to the process. So that will be helpful in that way. And if you are using any custom package, then also you can add it over here and you can mention like what this package actually does, what is the use of this package and all this information. So this is the this, I can remove this because this is a repeated part. This is already there in the top, so I can just remove this one. And there we go. We have the other details like what are the future improvements, like optimization or exception handling, and if you have multiple files and all these things. And if there are any remarks, we can add all those things. And the glossary is just common, like we will be explaining what this project is about, what are the what is master package and what is the packages that we are using in the process, what is activity sequence. If it's a non-technical person, then they can understand what this is actually. So this is just an information that we are providing here. So apart from that, we can also, this is the basic standard template that we have, that UiPath has provided us. But also we can add more details if you wanted to into this template. So what I can see is in this, we don't have the screens, like what are the screens that we are using, how many screens. So you can add that information. Also you can provide, like, as I mentioned you, what are the assumptions that we are going to do. Let's say I'm expecting this as output. So let's say if this is not the output for the process, so this risk may happen. So you can give the risk, or let's say we are doing UI automation for a particular process. So if the UI of the application changes, then it doesn't work. So that will be a possible risk, right? So you can give assumptions and risk also. That will definitely be helpful for the client, so that it wouldn't be a new thing, or they don't get surprised if something goes out of the box, right? So because they will be already known that this risk may come in future.
So, and even to be process map.
Correct. Yeah, to be process map, we can actually include it just before the main solution here, like a small flow chart you can just do. Just mentioning what on high level, like what will be the like the steps that we are going to do in order, just like let's say there are 5 workflows. Excuse me for that. So let's say there are 5 workflows. We can just do start and end, and in between you can just skip those 5 workflows. And in the solution diagram, you can explain in detail what is there in that 5 workflows. So that's how you can develop a to-be process. You can just give it just about the solution under this part. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much about the template, and based on the requirement you can add on things and you can just work as per the requirement of the organization.
Yeah, we got it. So I think you have explained each and every step in detail. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have explained very well. And even if somebody seen this video, definitely they can do practice on the STD and they can create their STD by their own. Even I also learned in this video only how to do create the STDs and how it will work and all. So let's start this. And I think one more final question before we end. So the STD part or the solutions part or the technical part or the development part, the BA usually won't interact much in this discussions or not be available. Okay, so what kind of suggestion you give to a BA, like in the technical knowledge, how should he improve and what kind of at least basic things he should know in the STD or maybe the development part?
So I cannot say them like you have to know, but it's an added advantage if you know, because basically if a developer is there in a one project, then they most of the time 90% they will be dedicatedly in one project. But BA will not be like that. They will be assigned in multiple projects at a time. So but if they are curious to know, then definitely that's an added advantage, because BA is the one who will be very cautious during the walkthroughs of the process, right? So at that time, they can actually think in their head, like, is the process can be feasible or not. So I have seen many of them, like, picking up the right things. So that will be very much helpful. It's not just like, if what happens if you don't have technical knowledge, when the process walkthroughs are happening, you will just blindly mimic whatever the client is saying, whatever the SME is saying. But if you have the technical knowledge, you can just think, can this be automated? Like, what are the challenges throughout the process? So they can pick the right things, and they can ask more questions about it. So that will be very much helpful. So that's all I can say. But it's not mandatory that they have to know, but if they are curious to learn, then definitely that will be a very big learning curve for them.
Yeah, really wonderful point you brought. So I think we are very good with the topic, whatever we lined up. So, so before going to end of the session, so I would like to appreciate your time and thank you so much for accepting and giving the wonderful discussion on the very important topic. So it will really help to the people. So thank you so much, Harika.
Thank you so much for calling into this session, Nikhil. I really enjoyed sharing the knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.